Did you know that fermented foods are having a moment? Did you know that? Today we're going to be talking about fermented foods, and I will be answering your burning questions. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Ngozi Okoro. I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist, and my role here is to help you live your best life by optimizing your gut health. And today we're going to be talking about your most important questions. What in the world is a fermented food? Where do they come from? How do they help my gut? Do they help my gut? This is a question a friend of mine asked. She said, okay, I hate sauerkraut and kimchi. Is there any hope for me? How much sauerkraut or fermented foods do I really need? You get the idea. Let's just dive in. I know you all know this. We are what we eat. This was ascribed to a philosopher called Ludwig Feuerbach. Did you know that we are at least half bacteria? Did you know that? Did you know that some studies show that the bacteria lining our gut are up to 100 trillion? Did you know that? What bacteria are you made of? Jean-Antoine Brillat-Savarin wrote, "Tell me what you eat, and I will tell you what you are." This is in 1825. And this launches us into our talk about fermented foods and the bacteria that produce them and the bacteria that live in our bodies. What bacteria are you made of? What is fermentation? Fermentation is a metabolic process where microorganisms like yeast and bacteria convert carbohydrates like sugars and starches into other compounds. Now, why carbohydrates? Because your microorganisms are smart, right? They're not interested in fat or proteins, really. Foods such as meats, when they're fermented, sugar has to be added first. Now, a fun fact to know is that proteins and fats are essential nutrients, but carbohydrates are not. Isn't it so great that the bacteria help us break down the one macronutrient that's not essential and has the capacity to cause metabolic damage depending on how it's eaten? Isn't that just the most wonderful thing to know? Now, one of the earliest and best examples of fermented foods is fermented dairy. I know that dairy may not be the favorite food for a lot of people, but listen, dairy foods are products made from the milk of mammals like cows and goats and sheep. They include items like milk, yogurt, cheese, butter, cream. Dairy usually contains the sugar lactose, but it also has fat and protein, so it's rich in all three macronutrients. Unlike most plant-based foods that had either carbohydrates and some protein, or animal-based foods that have mostly protein or fat, dairy has all three. Example of fermented dairy, yogurt or kefir. Example of fermented vegetables is cabbage, which magically becomes sauerkraut. Examples of fermented beans like soya beans is tempeh or miso or natto. An example of fermented beverages is kombucha. Why ferment? What is the reason? Why is this good? Did you know that fermented food reduces the glycemic index or the glycemic load of carbohydrates? Remember from my last video, how to eat to prevent diabetes. We are trying to control carbohydrate intake to help with insulin sensitivity and prevent sugar and insulin spikes. Fermented foods help to do that for you. How do they do this? By reducing the amount of glucose that your body has to deal with. The bacteria has already done this for you. So anytime you take a carbohydrate and ferment it, the glycemic index or load is immediately reduced. Honey, that's just miraculous. Now, quick reminder, what is glycemic index? It's a number that ranks carbohydrate-containing foods on a scale of 0 to 100, depending on how quickly they raise your blood sugar. Foods with a low glycemic index are absorbed more slowly. They cause a slower rise in blood sugar. Foods with a high glycemic index absorb quickly, cause a rapid spike, So this ranking is helpful for managing blood sugar levels if you're diabetic, but if you're not, it just helps you to eat healthier. Foods are ranked on a scale of 0 to 100. Pure sugar is at 100. Low glycemic index, less than 55. Medium, 56 to 69. High, 70 and above. You know the high glycemic index foods, right? You know them. Pretzels, baked potatoes, chips, all that stuff. So, in 2015, a study was published and showed that you had improved HbA1c. HbA1c is something that your doctor probably checks as a measure of blood glucose control over the preceding 3 months. It's checked in people with diabetes. It's checked in healthy people. That 2015 study showed that fermented foods improved HbA1c, which is a measure of glucose control over the preceding 3 months. It improved fasting blood sugar. It improved triglycerides, which are a kind of cholesterol, in people who drank 600 cc's of fermented probiotic milk daily for 8 weeks compared to people who drank a conventional milk. Even better, in 2024, they did an analysis of randomized controlled trials. These are the best kinds of studies, using over 800 participants, and they noticed significant improvements in fasting blood sugars, LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, and even insulin resistance, which is the basis for a lot of chronic disease. The results of this research showed that fermented foods have the potential to improve some metabolic outcomes: fasting blood sugar, triglycerides, LDL, and diastolic blood pressure in patients with diabetes and pre-diabetes. So, benefit number 1. Fermented foods help control blood sugar, whether you're diabetic or not diabetic. And if you're not diabetic, it helps to prevent those insulin and sugar spikes that are the foundation of insulin resistance. That's just one benefit. Number 2, fermentation produces our favorite gut molecules. Remember, short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate, acetate, and propionate. They are the ones that give the fermented foods that tart or sour flavor. Let's do a quick reminder about benefits of short-chain fatty acids. Every time I read, there's more benefits. So let's do a quick reminder. They act as foods for the cells lining your colon. These are called colonocytes, and they provide energy for them. Why do your colon cells need energy? Honey, your colon are the ones helping you move stool along, helping to form your stool. These guys get tired. The short-chain fatty acids provide energy for them. Number 2, it helps regulate your gut barrier function, including mucus production, which I discussed in my detox video. Remember, your gut barrier has tight junctions. They act as a border. When you eat, and you eat things that contain toxins, your gut barrier, these are the guys that prevent these toxins from invading. Let me give you an analogy. Have you ever watched an old movie with maybe something with Mel Gibson, like there was an army and they were being invaded and the other army was coming at them with spears? You remember how the army, they would stack their shields close to each other and form a border? That's your gut barrier. Number 3, short-chain fatty acids help maintain the balance of good gut bacteria and bad gut bacteria. Number 4, they help with normal insulin release and improve insulin sensitivity. We know that insulin resistance is now the baseline of many chronic diseases like strokes, heart attacks, cancers, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, Alzheimer's. Short-chain fatty acids help to prevent these. Short-chain fatty acids are anti-inflammatory and help to promote immune function. Did you know that the human gut is the home for about 80% of your immune cells? That explains why when you have an imbalance in your gut microbiome, it impacts your immune system. Short-chain fatty acids helps to lower bad cholesterol like your LDL. They're absorbed in the bloodstream. They help in growth of new mitochondria in cells like muscles and help for muscle growth. Mitochondria is like the energy factory of your cells. They enhance fat burning called ketogenesis to help your liver burn fat faster. And if you fast, they help you go into ketosis, which is the fat burning mode, faster as well. Benefit number 2, fermented foods help in the increased production of short-chain fatty acids. Before the age of refrigeration, most carbohydrates had to undergo some form of fermentation to prevent them from going bad. And so the diets of our grandparents helped to produce more short-chain fatty acids than our current diet. With industrialization, we lost a lot of that. So that's why we're seeking out fermented foods now, because they're so beneficial to our gut microbiome. So you too can eat like it's 1925. Benefit number 3, the amazing power of probiotics. This is what you get from fermented foods. Now, remember, it takes bacteria and yeast to ferment foods. If you get unpasteurized, which means it's not heated, which means raw kefir or raw kimchi or sauerkraut, then in addition to those 2 benefits are already listed, which is lowering glycemic index, which is increasing short-chain fatty acids, you are also getting bacterial benefits. So for me personally, when I do get fermented foods, I always make sure they're unpasteurized and raw. I talked a lot about probiotic benefits in my video on pre, post, and probiotics, and I will link that in the comments for you. It's important to note, however, that not all fermented foods are probiotics. In order to be considered a probiotic, the microorganisms must be alive when you consume them and have a proven health benefit. Probiotics can be found in fermented foods that have not undergone a process to kill the microbes, like some yogurt, some kefir, raw sauerkraut. Now, a word on sourdough bread or pasteurized sauerkraut, they may have lost some of their live microbes, so they're not considered probiotics, even though they're fermented, but they still have all the benefits of fermented foods I've listed above. Here's the great news. Fermented foods may also contain postbiotics, which are the non-living microbial components or metabolites of the bacteria that can support your health. So see my probiotic video, which I'll link to you in the comments. Benefit number 4. Did you know that fermented foods are richer in vitamins and minerals? B vitamins like B12, folate, riboflavin, vitamin C, vitamin K, minerals like iron, zinc, potassium, calcium. Did you know that fermentation reduces the anti-nutrients in food? The bacteria break them down. Okay, Dr. Okoro, hold on a minute. Anti-what now? Anti-nutrients. I read this analogy somewhere. Animals, all biologic organisms have a protective mechanism. So your ancestors, when they went to hunt, did the animal just stand there and get shot? No. The animal tried to run away. Anti-nutrients for plants are the way plants protect themselves from being eaten, right? You may have heard examples include things like phytic acid in nuts and grains, lectins in grains, tannins in teas, oxalates in vegetables. Some people can't eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of leafy greens, because it can cause kidney stones. This is from oxalates. What these compounds do, these anti-nutrients, is they reduce your absorption of certain minerals like calcium, iron, and zinc and magnesium. So over time, might predispose to deficiencies in people who consume large amounts of these, which means that fermented foods make these minerals more available to your body and counteract the effect of anti-nutrients. Did you know that cassava contains cyanide and that the process of fermentation reduces this by over 80%? Stay tuned for my Fermented Foods Nigerian edition for more on this. I could not wait for that. Number next, fermented foods increase microbiome diversity and decrease inflammatory markers. This study published in Cell in 2021. Remember, the diversity of the gut microbiome had been studied in the American Gut Project. The American Gut Project was published in 2018, over 10,000 participants, over 40 countries. A more diverse gut microbiome is associated with better immune function, improved mental health, and a lower risk of chronic diseases. Eating fermented foods help to achieve that. Researchers at Stanford University that published this article observed that fermented foods like kimchi and kefir, they boost beneficial bacteria, they lead to better immune status, which was a surprising finding that highlighted that simple diet changes can improve your health. And they actually outperform the high fiber diet over a 10-week period in Healthy Adult. I was like, what? I was shocked. So let's talk about how to identify true fermented foods if this is what you wish. When shopping for fermented foods, consider the following. Number 1, storage. The most authentic fermented foods are refrigerated to preserve live microbes. Number 2, look for labeling. Does it have fermented written on it? Does it have live active cultures written on it? Does it have cultured written on it? Next, look for ingredients. Products like vinegar, products containing vinegar are often not truly fermented, but they're just acidified to stability. Like a lot of sourdough bread, to get true fermented, look for it's written on it, a starter culture. The other day I went to Trader Joe's and was looking at all their fermented sourdough, and one of them actually has starter culture in it. So starter culture is a preparation of microorganisms that has specific bacteria or yeast, and it's added to food to initiate the fermentation process. This is as opposed to just wild fermentation that uses organisms that are available in the environment. One is not better than the other, it's just the process. And then finally, look for the microbiome strains. So dairy fermented foods like yogurt or kefir, they typically list the live bacterial species, while other fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, they may not because they use the wild, complex microbiome communities. All right, Dr. Okoro, I have been eating pickled foods. Are they fermented? So listen. Pickling uses an acidic solution like vinegar to preserve food quickly, while fermenting uses beneficial bacteria to convert sugars to lactic acid and create that tangy flavor over a longer period. So pickling is more of a chemical method using vinegar, and fermentation is a biological method using bacteria to create acidity. Pickling results in a shelf-stable product. It's ready in days or weeks. It can be stored in sealed jars at room temperature, but without probiotics. Meanwhile, fermentation produces probiotic-rich foods that usually require refrigeration after the process. So, a food can be pickled and fermented, but not all pickled foods are fermented. Let me say that again. Not all pickled foods are fermented. So you got to look at the jar. Let's take some specific foods and some fun facts. Number 1, kefir. I start with this because it's my favorite. You know why it's my favorite? As you grow older, your body produces less lactase, which is the enzyme that breaks down lactose. And you know, if you drank whole milk, which I did for a long time, after some time you notice, oh, I get a little bloated and gassy and I'm gassing up the room. Here's how you can still tolerate dairy and get all the benefits. Kefir contains significantly less lactose than milk due to the fermentation process, with reduction levels also often cited between 30 and 99%, depending on how it's made. The bacteria and yeast in kefir consume lactose, break it down to lactic acid. Additionally, kefir contains an enzyme called beta-galactosidase. It helps your body digest any remaining lactose. Kefir is your friend. It also helps increase H. pylori eradication. You know, H. pylori is this bacteria, and up to 50% of people within certain age groups will have it. And as a GI doctor, that's one of the things I try to eradicate. Did you know that one study found that combining a 14-day regimen for H. pylori with kefir increased the eradication rate from 50 to 78%. So next time your doctor says, you know, we found H. pylori and I'm going to give you a medication, ask your doctor, can I take some kefir? Is it going to help increase my eradication rate? The answer will probably be yes. Now, let's talk about yogurt. The most evidence in literature for fermented food comes with yogurt. It's been around for a really long time. Now, the evidence is definitely there for increased microbiome diversity. Now, here's what you look for. On the yogurt container, look for live active culture. Avoid flavored yogurt with artificial sweeteners, okay? They have added sugars, they have thickeners like pectins and gum. This moves them into the ultra-processed category. And I discuss that a lot in my ultra-processed food talks, which I will link to you. You just want the plain, full-fat yogurt, which is the least processed. The end. Next, let's talk about kombucha. When I tasted kombucha, I thought, oh my God, this is sweet. It has significantly added sugar, which is needed to ferment it, and has the least evidence behind it. But it's really delicious, but that might be due to the added sugar. So drink carefully. Next, how about sourdough bread? If you have to eat bread, this is probably the one to get because remember how I said fermented foods lower glycemic index. But listen, you have to check, is it vinegar added or is it truly fermented? Truly fermented, we have a starter culture added. It breaks down the starch to alcohol and short-chain fatty acid and not just have added vinegar that lowers the glycemic index more than regular bread. This is how sourdough reduces the glucose load and helps to regulate your blood glucose compared to regular blood. And now, my absolute favorite. And for some reason, people tend to just have a lot of, opinions about sauerkraut. Now, here's, and I'm just going to confess, I add sauerkraut to my salad daily. Apart from its fermented qualities, if it's raw and unpasteurized, it has probiotic qualities due to live bacteria. Also, the cabbage itself is a powerful prebiotic and it's food for your gut bacteria. Honey, I'm trying to feed my people. It helps some of the symptoms in people with irritable bowel syndrome, which is IBS. And then kimchi. Kimchi has lots of ingredients, including spices, cabbage, ginger, garlic, pepper, scallions, radishes. Studies show increased microbiome diversity and decrease in E. coli and C. diff. How about tempeh for my soy lovers? Tempeh is an excellent source of protein, especially if you're vegan and you don't want to eat dairy for any reason. Aren't you just loving this? So who should avoid fermented foods, right? Those with a weakened immune system or gut disorders like IBS or irritable bowel, you should talk to your doctor before consuming them. Just depending on where you are in your remission, you may want to avoid it for a while. Pregnant individuals, they may benefit from fermented foods, but you have to talk to your doctor first. Now, some fermented foods also contain histamine, which can worsen inflammation in certain people. So if you have an histamine intolerance, you should probably avoid those types. Some people, as with anything new, you may experience some mild bloating or loose stools when you're first adding them to your diet, but this usually improves as the gut adjusts. Remember, your gut is like a muscle. You went to the gym, you started lifting 50-pound weights for the first time. Who does that? Nobody. So you want to start with, get the little baby 3-pound weights, okay? Yeah, it's fine. Everyone's laughing at you. And then in a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even a year, you'll be a champion. That's how to introduce fermented foods. You start slow and steady. So, should you try sauerkraut or any fermented food? It's an individual decision, okay? Personally, before a few months ago, you would have told me about fermented foods and other things. What's that? Oof, yeah. So I understand it's completely new. What I have tried to do is give you examples and summarize fermented scientific benefits. How much of any fermented food should you have to get benefits? Studies have shown anything from 1 to 6 servings a day, you're in good shape. So, in summary, what are the scientific benefits as evidenced by hardcore scientific facts? Number 1, fermented foods lower glycemic index. They're not going to spike your blood sugar as much as their unfermented cousins. Number 2, they increase short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. You want those guys, the way your grandparents ate, you want them. They provide probiotics. Everyone needs those in their lives. They increase bioavailability of certain vitamins and minerals, and they increase microbiome diversity and inflammatory markers. This is my gift to you. You make an educated choice on what is best for you. Try some probiotic kefir, try some sauerkraut, try some kimchi, try tempeh. There are also other ways to achieve microbiome diversity, and we will be discussing those in the coming weeks. So here is my personal view after trying. My favorite ones are kefir and sauerkraut, because for me, this is eating smarter. So everything I eat is delicious, but also put to work in my body and not just pretty. I make a joke to my friends and my patients that if you're going to write a story about my life, it's going to be called The Delicious Life. Because my rules for food are it has to be delicious, and I'm going to put it to work in my body. But that's just my perspective. So now you're empowered to go out and make the choice that you want. Thank you so much for spending this time and for listening. My next video is going to be about Nigerian fermented foods and probiotics. You don't want to miss this, whether you're Nigerian or not. Thank you so much. Have a great day.